Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this morning's webinar. It's exactly 9:30 Pacific. We're going to give about 2 to 3 minutes for additional attendees to join, and then we'll get started. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're giving another minute or two for additional attendees to join, and then we'll get started. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this morning's webinar. My name is Quentin Alsbury. I'm a product manager on the QuickSight team, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the ML Insights feature that we launched re:Invent a couple weeks ago. Wanted to extend a thank you to everyone for joining us, as well as for being a participant in the preview of our new ML Insights feature. Joining me today is Louis Wang, who's a principal product manager on the QuickSight team, who's going to be doing the walkthrough and deep dive on the Insights feature. So a couple housekeeping notes. You'll see that there's a Q&A panel. Feel free to submit any questions that you have. We have a number of people standing on hand to help make sure you get as many answers as possible. We will probably take some of the questions live at the end of the session. Feel free throughout the session to enter whatever questions you have into the window, and we'll try to answer them as quickly as we can. We will be recording this session and sending out a recording afterwards. Outside of that, I'm going to hand it over to Louis, and we'll get started. Louis, are you ready?
Yeah, thanks, Quentin. Hi, everyone. This is Louis from the QuickSight team. Most of you should have gotten an email from me either several weeks back or last night around your account being whitelisted for ML Insights. So you should be good to go in terms of trying this out by yourself as well. In the email, you will see also a link that allows you to download the getting started instructions. So feel free to follow through that when you are testing it out yourself. After the webinar, we also provide access to the actual demo file, which is a sample data set that you can play around with. So with this asset, you should be good to go in terms of getting started with ML Insights. If you have not received an email from me on getting your account whitelisted, just leave a note on the Q&A and we'll make a note of that, and then we'll follow up after the webinar and get you guys up and running. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Most of you should probably be aware or know what ML Power Insight is already, either through re:Invent, through our blog post announcement, or through the sessions that were posted on YouTube. So I won't be spending too much time on the slides, although I do want to just go over some quick overview of QuickSight as a product, where our areas of focus, what the state of the product is right now, and then we can deep dive into the ML Insight specific topics. So to get started, QuickSight, just as a quick recap, is our cloud-powered BI service that allows everyone to be able to create ad hoc visualizations, publish dashboard, and share really insights to everybody in the organization. One of our key focus in the last 2 years has been really iterating quickly on the feature set that customers have asked us for. And part of delivering insight to everyone, we see that as both allowing customers to be able to consume their data and insights through the QuickSight application, but also from their own applications that they may have developed. So during re:Invent, we also announced the embedding capability that allows customers to be able to take a QuickSight dashboard visualization and embed it within their own app to provide insights to their end business users. And we are a strong believer that machine learning plays a really important role in business intelligence and analytics in general going forward. ML Insights is our beginning to that, and throughout the next year and beyond, you're going to see us do a lot more in this area to help customers being able to automate and get insights, deeper insights more quickly from their data. And we see QuickSight as a tool to help customers analyze all of their data and report on it and get insight from them from all the data that they have on AWS, whether they're building their data lake on AWS, have relational databases, or are using various AWS analytics services like Redshift, Athena. QuickSight sort of like is the last mile tool that leverages machine learning to help customers make sense of all the growing data that they have on AWS. And QuickSight is also a tool that covers a various different type of roles within your organization, whether you are a data scientist or a BI engineer looking to create self-service data discovery and visualizations, or you are a dashboard author and your primary role is to create and publish dashboard for others to consume, as well as the end users, what we call readers, that are going to be primarily consuming the dashboard insights that have been shared with them. And part of the reason why so many customers are using QuickSight today, first of all, is that it is really easy to deploy and scale. There's no servers to manage. So QuickSight, think of it like as a SaaS application. Whether you're an admin, you're a power user, or a reader, it is all accessed through the QuickSight website. So you don't need to deal with all the overhead around managing infrastructure. And QuickSight also nicely integrates with all the data source in AWS. So regardless of whether you're using Redshift, Athena, S3, or various different AWS relational databases, QuickSight nicely works with those things as well. We allow you to easily scale, whether you are a company of 10 users or you're trying to deploy a BI solution to 10,000 or more users. QuickSight automatically does all the heavy lifting for you. And probably the most important thing is that you pay only for what you use. So you don't need to worry about provisioning and paying a lot for users that don't end up using the tool as much. So in the last year, as I mentioned earlier, one of our focus is being able to iterate quickly on the features that matters to our customers. So we launched things like, for example, the reader role and pay per session pricing. We recently added group support in role-level security to allow companies to better manage permissions of sensitive data in their organization. We added APIs that allow customers to provision QuickSight and manage QuickSight users and groups programmatically. Added various new types of calculations that allow customers to be able to create more complex calculations within QuickSight, as well as the dashboard embedding, which allows customers to take QuickSight dashboards and embed them within their own applications so that they can provide the analytics that QuickSight offers to their end users. And one of the things we keep hearing from customers is that, hey, this is all great. The challenge, however, is that as the volume of data continues to grow within the AWS cloud, it is becoming harder and harder to stay on top of that. And this is especially true because most of the way that BI is done today is pretty manual. So it is very challenging to be able to keep up with that growth of data and really harness the data and convert it into business insights. And Amazon has been a pioneer in machine learning, both on the retail side and with AWS. We've made various machine learning and AI capabilities available for the customers to be able to leverage those themselves. So with QuickSight, our starting point is take a lot of the technology that has been developed within Amazon AWS and integrate it into QuickSight to help customers get deeper insights into the data. So that is the core of ML Insights. And there are three powerful features that are part of the ML Insight set of capabilities. The first one is, anomaly detection. So what we're doing is we are allowing customers to set up an anomaly detection job that can run across billions of data points to help them uncover the hidden insight by continuously analyzing the data behind the scenes. We're making forecasting a lot easier for most business users through very simple UI and point and click. And finally, with auto narrative, being able to create not just visualizations like bars, pie charts, or table within their dashboard, but being able to embed rich narrative that can tell the story of their data in plain language, so that when somebody accesses the dashboard, for example, that you have built, they can immediately read and understand what's going on in their business. So with that, I'm going to just go ahead and jump into a demo. So some of you may have already seen this, but if not, let me just do a quick overview of what I'm showing right now on the screen. So this is a dashboard that I have built within QuickSight, leveraging the ML Insights capability. And as you can see, there are some elements that are very similar to traditional dashboards. For example, you have a set of line charts, bar charts, tables, right? But what really stands out, as you can tell, is that this dashboard also have a lot of narrative around it. So each of these, for example, daily revenue, year to date, top bottom movers, top bottom to plan variance, all of these are created using the ML Insight functionality. These are narratives that you can define as a template, and the data underneath updates, these narratives can be automatically updated to reflect the latest data. So that makes it really easy for end business users to come in, read through it, and immediately understand what's going on, rather have to go to the charts and compare, pull out a piece of paper and figuring out what are the interesting things that are happening in their business. On the right side here, you'll see daily revenue forecast. This is generated using the machine learning forecasting functionality that we have, and below you'll see a supporting chart, and that's a time series that shows the forecast as well, going several periods forward. So I'm going to also walk you through later in the demo how do you create these from scratch. And then the most interesting part that you'll see is the callouts by product and country, as well as callouts by customers. So I'm using the term callouts today, but these are fully customizable, so you can name it however you want. But the key thing that's going on here is that these are output of our anomaly detection algorithm. So what it can do is automatically analyze millions of metrics simultaneously behind the scenes. So you can set up a job and have it run hourly, daily, weekly, and so on. And it will constantly be analyzing your data and then telling you, hey, what are the interesting trends, patterns, and anomalies that it has detected, right? And then, for example, here it tells you that, hey, daily revenue for baby products in Russia was lower than expected. As an end user, what you will be able to do is click on the menu and then go to Explore Anomalies. This is what we call an Explore Anomaly detail page, And what it allows users to do is be able to, at a glance, see what are all the insights and anomalies for that particular day. In this case, it is the anomalies for revenue on November 22nd. If I scroll down, you'll see these are all the anomalies that were detected on November 22nd. So you can see a significant drop for baby products in Russia, a steady increase in office supplies in Brazil for the last few days, and so on. So this provides, whether you are a business user who needs to constantly stay on top of how your business is doing across the various different countries, regions that you do business, or the various different products and services that you offer. This provides a really easy way for you to stay up on top of all of that. If you are a central BI or data analytics team, this also provides a really quick way for you to be able to look at what's going on in your data. Are there potentially any data quality issues that cause your metrics to drop or significantly increase, and do like investigative tasks much easier rather than writing a bunch of custom SQLs and do it manually. So let me scroll up and show you a couple of things that you can do here. When you click on Show Anomalies by Date, it pops up a bar chart here that shows you the number of anomalies that were detected on any given day. So the yellow bar here represents the number of anomalies for the latest period that is selected, which is November 22nd. There were 37 anomalies, and you can hover through some of these. For example, if I look at November 1st, there were 47 anomalies, which is like much higher than other days. So I can click on that bar, it highlights it, and then below you'll see that all the charts now, the time series below, are updated to show the anomalies for that specific day. So here you see all products within the U.S. The total revenue for all products in the U.S. had a significant increase, spike on November 1st. Similarly, digital products across different countries in Brazil, right, as well in Germany, and so on. So this provides you a really good way to really deep dive and understand what is really driving your business. On the top, you can expand the controls to expose additional options. So you can modify the anomaly threshold to different sensitivities. So if I choose anomaly threshold to be very high, it'll only show anomalies that are the most significant, right? So you'll immediately see that there are less anomalies shown right now for November 1st. If you set it to very low, of course, it's going to be more sensitive, and you're going to see more anomalies on that day. So depending on how sensitive you want the algorithm to be, you can on the fly adjust it to what works best for you. You can also filter the results based on whether an anomaly was higher than expected or lower than expected, right? So you can select these as options. So depending on the business, sometimes higher than expected may not necessarily be a good thing, right? In the content revenue, you may not really care about higher than expected because that's good, and you may want to look at only things that are lower than expected. So you can click on that, and then the result will filter for things that are lower than expected. And then you'll also have all the dimensions that you have defined within the anomaly detection job that you can filter on. So in this case, this anomaly detection job was configured to run on revenue for products and countries. So here you can filter by all the products that are available, all the countries that are available. So if you're only interested, let's say, in Spain, you can click Spain, and then it'll filter to only the anomalies within Spain as well. So with that, let's go back to the dashboard. And actually, let me switch tabs here. And what I'm going to do now is show you how to create something like this from scratch. So I'm just switching to another region that is fresh, so there's not a lot of clutter in the UI. to start, you'll want to use a data set. Ideally, as part of this preview, we strongly encourage that you use your actual real data, because that is often when you're really going to find the interesting things. But we recognize that not a lot of you may immediately have real data about your business that you can immediately plug in and use. And if you still wanted to try out, as I mentioned earlier, in the email that I sent you guys, there is a sample data set that I've provided in the documentation, so you can just click on this and download the sample data. This is a data set that I'm using today for the demo as well. So once we go through the entire demo, you should be very familiar with this. Okay, so going back to QuickSight, now let's start by creating an analysis. And for those of you who are not familiar, analysis, think of it like as a workbook. It is where you create the visualizations, you can customize the layout, formatting, and so on. It is where you author basically a dashboard, and then you can publish it as a dashboard. So to create an analysis, you first create a data set. And in this case, I already have a data set created. This was just uploaded. It's just a CSV file that it uploaded. So I can select this data set, and I can create analysis from here. So now you have a brand new, fresh analysis that is created from scratch. By default, there's already a visual canvas here where you can start building a visualization. On the left here is all the fields that are available within this data set. And on the bottom are all the visual types that we support. And getting started QuickSight is pretty easy, right? So for example, if I click on date and revenue, it automatically shows me a time series of revenue over time. By default, it aggregates daily. And this data set has data starting from Jan 1st of 2017. So it has quite amount of historical data. With a slider, you can like zoom in to see more details if you wanted to, right? And you can also edit the visual title here. So let's say I can edit this as daily revenue. Okay, immediately you'll notice that on the top left-hand corner, there's a little insights badge. And what that is saying is basically that, hey, for this visualization, there are a number of suggested insights that you can look at that QuickSight automatically generated. So you can either click on this tab, this label, or on the left, you can click on the Insights tab as well. So if I click on this, it'll immediately show me the suggested insights panel. These are generated automatically by looking at the data that is shown on this chart. And there are a number of things that we call out, like, for example, in the time series. So you'll see that we call it, hey, what the highest day is, what the day-over-day change looks like, what's the lowest day, what the growth rate is. And we also, on the fly, run anomaly detection algorithm on this time series and tell you what the most recent anomaly is. And we also do a quick forecast for you to tell you what is the expected predictive value for the next several periods. And this is created per visual. These suggested insights are generated for each of the visualizations that you have within your analysis. So for example, let me go back here and add another visual. And for this one, I'm going to look at maybe revenue by product categories. So here you'll see that, you know, I have all the product categories and the total revenues of it. Let me go ahead and change the type of revenue here from number to be a currency, so that all of these automatically reflect they're now currencies. Let me create another one, a slightly more complex one here that shows, for example, and we'll use pivot table here, that shows revenue, let's say, by geography over time, right? So now here you get a pivot table that shows you the, over time, what is the revenue for the various different countries that the product are sold. And you'll notice that each of these visualizations will have the insights badge on it, and you can click on this one, for example, and it takes you directly to, I'm sorry. For example, let's say you click this one, visual, it takes you, it scrolls directly and shows you the insights generated for this particular visual. And you can click on the table and then it scrolls down. If I click on the top line chart, it scrolls back up again to show you the insights for that particular one. In the bar example, we'll show you things like, for example, top 3 categories, bottom 3 product categories, what a total aggregation is. On the pivot table, we can show you even like, hey, what are the top movers, total aggregated day over day change, what are the bottom movers, as well as we do run anomaly detection on these as well. So you can basically get started with any of this visualization and be able to immediately see a number of suggested insights. Now, let's say you want to create an anomaly detection job based on revenue over time. And by the way, all of these, especially with anomaly detection right now, we are primarily focused on time series data. So you want to make sure that your data set has some time component on it and at least a metric, right? So typically like a date, metric like revenue, it could be things like website visits, number of customer contacts, defects, incidents, whatever you want to track over time. And because we are leveraging machine learning behind the scenes, we require at least some data for the algorithm to be able to establish, hey, you know, what is a normal pattern for data, learn from it, and then being able to call out what are unexpected behaviors. So at the very minimum, when you go through this, just keep in mind that you'll need at least 40 data points. And by 40 data points, I mean, if you are aggregating your data, let's say daily, right? So you need at least around 40 days. If you are aggregating your data weekly, so you need at least 40 weeks. Obviously, the more is better. For example, if it is daily data, you know, I would recommend you have at least, you know, 6 months worth of data to a year. I think that will work best because you want to have enough data to be able to better get the trending, seasonalities, and so on. So now that I've selected this and I want to create a anomaly detection job on revenue over time, let me click on the insights label again. And you'll notice that right at the top, we say continuously detect anomalies for up to 1 million time series. So this is just a call to action that says, hey, you know, you can run anomaly detection job from this visualization. You click add anomaly to sheet. And what happens now is we create what we call an insights visual. An insights visual is not all that different from the other visualizations that you see in QuickSight, except that rather than showing visualizations, we actually show narratives on it. Here, so this is an insight visual for anomaly detection, and it works very similarly to a visualization. So it still has the field wells where you can configure what the time field is, what the metric you wanted to analyze it, and where are the categories. You'll notice that it automatically inherited the fields from the time series visualization that I've created below. But now it is completely independent, and then you can change it, you can customize it however you want. For anomaly detection right now, what we're doing is we're taking a metric like revenue, and then we're splitting it across the dimensional values that you have defined. So let's say I select geo and I add it to the categories field well. If I were to run anomaly detection on this configuration right here, and what QuickSight is going to do is it's going to take revenue and compute the revenue for each of the unique geographies individually over time, and then it's going to run the anomaly detection algorithm for each geo, right? So it's basically splitting revenue across all the unique geos that are available. Now, you can add more categories into your anomaly detection job. So let's add product categories to this one as well. So now I have 2 categories, and what QuickSight will do is it will analyze revenue based on all the combinations of geography and product categories. So with these 2 categories selected, I can then go ahead and click Get Started. And in this modal, the key thing to call out is 3 things. One is, by default, when you have more than 1 category defined to run anomaly detection on, we default to running, computing the metrics in a hierarchical way, which means that let's say you have country, state, cities, your 3 dimensions in the category field well. What that means is we'll run anomaly detection on all unique values of all unique countries. We'll run anomaly detection on the combination of country and state, and then we'll run anomaly detection on unique combinations of country, state, and city. All right. But if your categories that you have selected are not necessarily strictly hierarchical, then you can choose Analyze All Combinations. And in this case, we'll also do, we'll do geo individually, product categories individually, and the combination of the 2. And then what you want to do is set up a schedule, how often you want this anomaly detection job to run. You can configure it to run every hour, every day, every week, every month. Because my data is aggregated daily, so here I select every day. And you can select what time do you want the schedule to start. So I'm going to set it as in 15 minutes. So instead of 10 a.m., 10:15. I'm going to do that, time zone, Pacific. And the other thing that you can do is you can run contribution analysis on the anomaly. So one of the functionalities as part of ML Insights is that when an anomaly is detected, you can define, hey, what are the, you can define QuickSight to automatically do a contribution analysis and tell you what are the top drivers, top contributors to a particular anomaly. If you have additional dimensions within your data that are not used in the anomaly detection job itself, you can set up those to be the dimensions that you run contribution analysis on. In this case, both of my categories are used in anomaly detection, so I can just leave this blank for now. I'm going to run through another example where I have additional dimensions to do contribution analysis. So now that everything is set up, you can just click OK. Please note that the schedule that you have defined will only be will take into effect only when you publish your analysis as a dashboard. So while in analysis view, it won't run in the background recurrently. Only in the dashboard context will it run continuously. But within analysis, one thing that you can do is you can just manually click Run using this button. So I'm just going to click Run now. Depending on the size of your data set, it may take a few minutes to potentially up to an hour if you have hundreds of thousands or millions of metrics. So just keep that in mind. And as soon as the anomaly detection job finishes running, you'll immediately see the results populate here. So while it is doing that, let's look at some of the other functionalities of QuickSight, of ML Insights. So let me just shrink this a little bit so that it's smaller here. And let's start with forecasting. So with forecasting, as mentioned earlier, we allow customers to be able to really easily create a forecast that accounts for the seasonality of the data. So you can see that in this data set, in this time series, there's a very obvious weekly seasonality where it peaks within the weekdays and then dips within the weekend time frame. And you can also see that there are some anomalies that happen over here and here. And a lot of times the challenge with forecasting is that you have to manually account for all of these edge cases, right? You need to make sure that, hey, your forecast is not impacted by this anomaly, is not impacted by this anomaly, and if you have like missing data, you need to manually compute those as well, right? And it makes forecasting tasks really manual, complex, and unscalable. So with QuickSight, we made it easy by using machine learning to run behind the scenes and help you generate a forecast based on the visualization that you're looking at right now. So the way you do that is just click on the top right-hand corner arrow of this visualization and click on Add Forecast. So you'll see immediately QuickSight returns a forecast, and this is largely based on the pattern of your data, and not just the seasonality it accounts for, but it also accounts for like a trending. So you'll see that, hey, the trending is overall an upward trend increase, and it accounts for that as well. You'll notice that the expected values are not influenced by the anomalies that we saw recently, which is this particular point. And it knows that, hey, this is an anomaly, it automatically excludes it. And you also get a nice little band that shows you not just what the expected value is, which is the dark orange one, but also what the upper bound and lower boundary of the forecast looks like. And these things are adjustable. So on the left, you'll see the forecast properties. Here you can play around with various settings. For example, you can extend the period's forecast from, let's say, 14 days to 21 days. Click Apply, and QuickSight will generate a forecast that has more days in it. You can also do things like, for example, period backwards. And what period backwards means is what we're really doing is assuming that these actual values don't exist. We try to generate a forecast that allows you to compare the forecast versus the actual value. So I can say, hey, let's look at 14 days back. Click Apply, and then you should see a chart that now has both orange and the blue line overlapping. You can compare what the forecast versus the actual looks like. Here you'll notice that, hey, because it is the first time we saw that there was a spike, the algorithm thinks that, hey, it might happen again, right? It doesn't necessarily know that it's not an anomaly, but you can see that over time, as it learns that it was a one-off incident, it adjusted immediately, and then that spike in the expected value no longer appears, right? The other thing that you can do here, let me just remove that so that the graph is simpler to look at. You can adjust the prediction interval, and prediction interval basically helps to define how wide you want the bands to be. So for example, if the bands are wider, it means that, hey, we have a much higher confidence that it'll fall within this boundary. So if you increase the prediction interval here, you'll naturally see that the bands get wider, and if you lower the prediction interval, you'll see that the bands get narrower. So you can play around with it to get to something that is ideal for you. By default, we automatically detect the seasonality of your data, but you can also customize it however you want. So if your data seasonality is not weekly, but it's some other recurring period, you can click Custom and then just manually enter the number of periods that defines a seasonality for you. So these are the capabilities of forecasting. Another thing that I wanted to show you as part of forecasting is what we call what-if analysis. And this is really interesting because a lot of times, as part of forecasting, you may know certain things ahead of time from a business that you want to adjust your forecast to, right? So for example, you want to forecast, if you are in a goal or target setting mode for your business, and you want to set a goal that is reasonable based on the trajectory of a business, but also you want to be a little bit aggressive and apply a markup to it, you can use this tool to do that. The way you would do that is what we call what-if analysis. On any given point within the chart here, you can click on the forecast, and you'll immediately see an option to do what-if analysis. If I select that, it provides you the option to whether you want to set a target on a particular date, or you want to set a target for a time range. And if you set a target for a date, it means that, if I say, hey, I want this point here instead of forecasted 6.2 million, I believe it's actually going to be 7 million. And the reason is because we expect to close a deal by December of that day. Then you can manually override that. And what happens is the forecast will automatically trend itself and adjust accordingly to meet that target. So let me just give you a quick example. If I want to set this, let's say instead of 7 million, just 7.5, 6.5. I can click and remove the trailing. You'll immediately see that there's a dot here. This is a target that you set. You click apply, and then you'll see the forecast adjust to meet that particular target. And when you hover over each of these days, you'll also see that there's a comparison on the tooltip that shows you what was the original forecast versus what is the adjusted forecast based on the what-if analysis that you have done, right? So that comes in really handy when you want to set targets, goals, or that there's something upcoming that you want to adjust your forecast for. The other thing that is real cool as well is you can set target for a time range. So in addition to just setting a target for a specific point, let's say you the way you operate your business is for the whole year of 2018, you want to be able to set a target in terms of how much revenue you want to make. You can set it for the entire time range, and then you can say, you can adjust so that the start date begins in January 1st, end date in, based on today, right? Actually, end date should, yeah. And then you can say, hey, I want the target to be rather, right now, the overall area below the graph adds up to a lot of numbers. So I think that's like, let's see, 172 million. Let's say my goal is 180 million. So I do that. I apply my Whatif Analysis. Oh, I might have an extra zero there. Right. So you'll see that it automatically adjusts the forecast for you like that as well, based on the area under the curve. So let me quickly refresh. So now, so that is a quick overview of Whatif forecasting and Whatif analysis. Now you'll see that the anomaly detection job has completed. And it says, hey, last updated 4 minutes ago, so it was completed 4 minutes ago. What you'll see here is an automatically generated text that shows you what the top anomaly for the latest period is. So you'll see total revenue for USA and particular school supplies in the US on November 17th, which is the latest period, latest period on the data set, was 4,000, and it was higher than the expected 2,697, right? We, in addition to analyzing anomalies, we also run behind the scenes a forecasting to tell you what the expected value for that particular metric on that particular day is, so that you can see how much of a gap it is in the actual versus what was the expected value. And then, as I have shown you earlier, you can then click on the menu, go to Explore Anomalies, and this is where you'll see the anomalies detailed, just like I've shown you in the other dashboard. And then you'll be able to scroll through it easily. You can click on the Show Anomaly to look at where all the anomalies detected for a particular day. So here, October 1st seems to be pretty anomalous. You can click on that and then quickly see what are all the anomalies that were detected for October 1st. And as I showed you earlier as well, you automatically get the ability to be able to adjust the threshold the directionality of the anomaly, as well as filter by geo and product categories. So now let's go back to the analysis, and that is anomaly detection. Let's go back to analysis. I do want to show you how to create some of the narratives and show you how our narrative template editing functionality works. So you're looking at, let's say you're looking at this chart, right? And let me just first of all, actually we can do this. That's fine. So let's say you wanted to be able to state, hey, you know, what is the day over day revenue is, right? What does the growth rate for the last 2 weeks look like, and what is the expected revenue for the next several weeks, right? As a narrative within your own app, within your own dashboard. Again, click on the insights label on this chart, and then what you can do is scroll through, select on the daily revenue header. You'll see all the insights or detect automatically generated for this particular visualization. You can take one of these here, the day over day change, and then click add. And what this does is it adds another insight widget within your dashboard, and it automatically populates the content of what you just selected. So period, total revenue for November 17 decreased by 2.15% from 6.1 to 5.9. All right, so that is a day over day change. And this is text and computations that you can automatically update. So let me readjust the layout a little bit to show you how all of this can work. Let me make this a little bit wider so you can show more text here. I can name this as, you know, daily, and I can name this anomaly for product. Now, how would you modify the narrative here? You can click on the menu, visual menu again, and click Customize Narrative. And what this shows you is a template-based mechanism where you can type in any text you want. You can insert variables based on computations that we provide. And you can also add things like if conditions, for loops to be able to add business logic on what is actually narrated when certain behaviors in your data occur. For example, let's say in addition to period, which is the default that I came with, and you can edit this however you want. Let's say I wanted to add, I wanted to state what the growth rate for the last 2 weeks looks like. I can click on Add Computation and then select, in this case, growth rate. There we go, growth rate. Click Next. And here I can choose a number of periods that I want to compute the growth rate for. So here I'm going to select for the trailing 2 weeks, right? Click Add. Now, if I expand the computation panel, you'll see that there's two computations, the period, which is what was default, and all the variables associated with it. And then there's a new one, which is growth rate, and all the variables associated with it. So let me show you how these variables work. On the right side, I can start by typing my narrative. So I can say growth rate for the last X period. And if you want to get X, right, the number of periods, you select the time period variables. So this is the number of periods that you have defined in the configuration. The last X days was, and then you can insert what the actual growth rate value is. So you can click on this, expand, and you have the option to choose where you want the raw value, which is unformatted, the formatted value, or the formatted absolute value. So I'll just click the format absolute value, period, and click Apply. So now you'll see, in addition to the period, you'll see towards the end growth rate for the last 14 days was 0.15%. Let me go back and edit it and add some more customization to it. Let's say I wanted to add some logic that says, you know, if growth rate is above X percentage, good, otherwise bad, right? I can click on insert code, and then let me add an inline if statement that evaluates, compares the growth rate. And then here to do metric math, I'll choose the unformatted value because it actually returns a number rather than a string. Unformatted value, if it is greater than 1%, save, I can say, great job. And then if, again, that is less than 1%, we need to do better. And this is a rich text editor, which means that you can bold things, italicize, underline, strike, and you can also change the color. So for this, let me go ahead and bold it, make this green, make this red, like that. And then click apply. So hey, we need to do better, right? Now, let's add another one. Let's say you wanted to also, in addition to this, you wanted to state what the forecast for the next X period look like. Again, click on add computation, select here's forecast, click next. And you'll see, the running forecast on the date, value equals revenue, the number of period forecast, 14, right? And we'll just leave all the prediction intervals and seasonality by default there, and then I'll click add. Now I can state, narrate something like, let me expand the computation panel again. You'll see the forecast inside variables are there, so I can say, we predict that revenue for the next, and then relative period to forecast and the number of periods, days will be, and then the actual metric value. Again, let's use formatted value so that it automatically applies the format of the metric. Apply. There you go. So we predict that revenue for next 15 days will be this. Now, let me go ahead and actually show you another one, which is really cool as well, and it's something that we find very useful many times. So let me rearrange this a little bit so that we make a little bit of room in our dashboard layout. Now, rather than using this time series, I'm going to use this bar chart here. Right, I'm going to click on the insights here and see what are the insights that are generated for this bar chart. Here you'll see and I'm just going to rename this so it's easier to identify. So sales by product type. Okay. All right. So here you'll see that for sales by product type, there's top 3 product categories, bottom 3 product categories. You can actually add these as well into as a narrative on your dashboard, and then you can resize it and then drag it along. Now, top bottom are a little bit more complex, and the reason is that it actually involves for loops to list items in your top or bottom. So let me just quickly show you how that looks. If you go to customize narrative, you'll be able to see that there is a template already pre-populated at the top. Number of items for this metric is, right? And it has a for loop that iterates over all the items that are in the list, the top items based on the configuration. And then by default, the configuration is 3 items, but you can change that however you want. And then list out where the category name is. So top in the items index category name and what the value looks like, right? So you can actually edit the settings here. So instead of 3, for example, you can say, I want to look at the top 5 instead. Click OK, apply, and then you'll see the top 5 instead of the top 3. And you can add additional formatting, if you want, and basically add more sophistication to the narrative as you see fit. Finally, you can publish this as a dashboard. So when you publish this as a dashboard, actually, so the previous schedule that I've defined already expired. So let me set this to 10, let's say 1025. Okay. You can add a title to it. Let's say my dashboard. And then let me go ahead and publish this as a dashboard. I'll give it a name. And then publish. So once you publish as a dashboard, you'll notice that like all the narrative insights are still there, all the charts with forecasts are there. Now this one, on the first run, it will basically run based on the schedule that you define, and then it's going to populate the data for you once the initial run is complete. So your end users, when they come here, they'll be able to see the results immediately, just like this dashboard that I've shown you. So this is already pre-populated because it has run. So that is basically what I wanted to walk through today for everyone. Now let me go ahead and switch to the slides real quick. There's only just one slide that I want to really quickly touch upon. So most of the functionalities that you see within ML Insights are free. So the forecasting is just part of the QuickSight product. The narrative part is just part of the QuickSight product. So there are no additional charges for it. But anomaly detection it's sort of a very compute-intensive task, because when you say, hey, I want to run I want to look at revenue over all of my customers, right? And you may have, thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of customers, then it really becomes compute-intensive, costly for us to run continuously behind the scenes. So there's the pricing associated with it. And the pricing is very much like our pay-per-session price. It's a usage-based pricing model. There's no upfront cost, no commitment. We bill based on the number of metrics that is processed. So for example, if you're running anomaly detection on sales across the top 1,000 customers, right, then that'll be 1,000 metrics. You want to run it daily, then it's 1,000 times 30, which is 30,000. And then the price per 1,000 metrics processed is 50 cents, right? So 50 cents times 30,000 divided by 1,000 is 30. So $15 will be your monthly cost for running anomaly detection on revenue for the top 1,000 customers. Right. And if you go to our pricing website, we have some examples to show you how that works. So with that, that concludes the demo and intro of ML Insight. I think we still have 3 minutes, so let me just quickly go to look at the Q&A and try to answer some of the questions that you might have asked. So let's see. So there's a question around pricing. One of the things I forgot to mention was that during preview, it is free. So you don't, when you test it out yourself, you don't need to worry that we'll start billing you during the time period. We're not going to charge you, and the pricing only becomes effect after general availability, and we'll make sure that you guys are aware of when it's going to be available for GA. There is a question around, this is a good question. So somebody asked, will this be rolling out to standard edition in time? So this functionality, ML Insight, is going to be enterprise edition only during preview, and also after we launch GA. And there's various benefits of upgrading from standard edition to enterprise edition. I suggest that you go to our website and look at the comparison that we've made. But effectively, we see standard edition as a tool that a version that is good for when you want to use QuickSight for a very small team. But in most cases, enterprise edition comes up on top in both the number of functionalities that we provide. So with the enterprise edition, you get like row level security, you get all the various different types of APIs, dashboard embedding, and you get ML insights as well, ability to connect privately to your data sources on AWS. And the pricing is also more cost effective. Authors are $18 per user per month, but for each additional reader you add, there is no fixed cost associated with it, and those readers pay only for what they use. So the total TCO could actually end up being cheaper than standard edition, depending on your usage pattern. So we're really focusing on making insights available to everyone within an organization. So we're really pushing for customers to use the Enterprise Edition more. I'm just going through some of the other unanswered questions. There's a lot of interest in embedding in the comments. This is something that we announced back on reInvent, and if you go to the QuickSight website, which is quicksite.aws, you can find more details around embedding. But at a very high level, we allow you to build a dashboard within the QuickSight application, and then embed that as an iframe within your own app. So that wraps up the webinar session for today. I want to thank everyone for joining, and hopefully this was useful to you. We will be sending out the recording afterwards, so you can go back and revisit them. Please do make sure that you look at the Getting Started documentation that I've provided. That provides sort of a lot of important things that you should be aware of, known issues, all the features that are available, how you should model your data to leverage the most out of ML insights. You have access to the demo data set, and basically you get like a step-by-step walkthrough of how to get started for ML insights. So thanks very much, and yeah, that wraps up the webinar for today.
Thanks, Louis, and thanks everyone for joining. And as Louis said, we'll be sending out a recording of this to everybody. And we will begin doing monthly webinars for QuickSight customers covering new functionality and new features, and embedding is the topic that we'll be covering in January. So keep an eye open for an email invite to that session if that's something that's interesting to you. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day and great holidays.